as he opened the 13th Parliament in what is billed to have been the shortest speech by a head of state to Parliament since its inception. Short as it may have been, it failed to address pertinent issues regarding the state of our economy and the national standard of living. Fellow Kenyans, the season for political campaigns has ended, and the honeymoon is well and truly over. It is now time to act decisively in our various capacities to the benefit of our great people and our great nation. The Ruto administration has promised itself into power by exploiting the sorry economic hardships facing our people with the use of the hustler narrative that has assured us of paradise. Kenyans will remember the days of computers for every child. Albeit it is also pertinent to remind ourselves that this regime is a continuation of the previous, sharing both their successes and their failures. It is now our duty to remind this administration of their campaign promises. Actions speak louder than words, as they say. It can never be promises after promises after promises. President William Ruto jana alidhubutu kusema kwamba yeye alikuwa kiongozi wa upinzani na kwamba rais ambaye amestaafu Uhuru Kenyatta sasa ndio kiongozi wa upinzani. It is important to point out facts. President William Ruto became deputy president of this country in 2013. And the period between 2013 and 2017 will go down in history as a country when our parastatals were raided and illicit money made available for future purposes. Therefore, and in 2017, 2022, William Ruto was still the deputy president under President Uhuru Kenyatta, a whole 10 years as deputy president. If he wanted us to believe the ridicule he tried to bestow on President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday, he could have started by saying, I had to resign. I had to resign when the situation became unbearable. That is the most natural thing for a leader who wants to be held accountable for their principles, indeed the acts of omissions or commission. Therefore, it must be seen by Kenyans that this is a continuation of what President William Ruto and President Uhuru Kenyatta started in 2013. That I thought was important for the avoidance of doubt. And if I was President William Ruto, I would also probably advise him. We are all same people. Advise him to show a measure of respect to a gentleman who has constitutionally handed over power. I keep on saying this is a very rare occurrence and makes us proud as Kenyans that we respect our institutions to that level. And certainly President Uhuru Kenyatta deserves congratulations for a peaceful handover of power. And in fact, Kenyans generally, remember there were advisories to foreigners in this country saying you should not visit Kisumu, you should not visit elsewhere, for fear that there will be Kenyans who take to the streets. Now Kenyans have baffled the world, and we owe it to them to congratulate them for keeping the peace, although they are so pained. Yes, they are so deeply pained, yes, and they took it. The 7 million of them, because the country admittedly has been divided right in the middle. And some of that dividing is by Mamluks from Venezuela. But we know that this is what happened. Therefore, our people have demonstrated to the world that all they're interested in is justice. They're not just stone throwers or people who abuse each other. They have demonstrated their true sense of Kenyan nationalism. My dear Kenyans, the first campaign promise by the Ruto administration was to the lowering of the cost of living. From day one, all costs associated with basic living have gone up. The price of unga and the cost of electricity are beyond the ordinary mwananchi's reach. These are matters we feel should take preeminence in these early days. Just like there was the rush to subsidize fertilizer on the 19th of September 2022, the same urgency should have first and foremost been applied to the rapidly rising cost of living. Only yesterday, as President William Ruto was opening Parliament, Central Bank, on their part, were raising the base lending rate from 7.25 to 8.25 or thereabouts. What does that tell you? The cost of borrowing will now go up. It is a middle class in this country and the hard-working business people who have made this country move towards Vision 2030 objectives of a middle-income country. But now if we kill that spirit by Kenyans not being able to borrow, I think that the consequences will be amazing in a negative sense. Now, we also question how this fertilizer was procured, when it was procured, and where it was sourced from. We ask, does it meet the Kenya Bureau of Standards, KEBS standards? This administration must therefore make public, because one thing we have done as a country is to open up this country. And the basic rights of Kenyans, the right to life, there's one thing that nobody can take away from Kenyans, is the basic rights. Therefore, the right to know is important. This administration, therefore, should make public the procurement process of this fertilizer subsidy. We have directed our MPs, a lot of whom, as you can see, at very short notice, managed to come to the command center. We have directed our MPs to commence an inquiry into the same. Fellow countrymen, as you are well aware, the extremely high cost of fuel in Kenya affects all sectors of our economy, from production costs that makes us unattractive to investors and our local manufacturing to transport costs that inevitably makes life unbearable, with the expensive basic cost of goods and services. This is happening at a time when the global price of a barrel of oil is on the decline, down from US dollars 20 per barrel, 80 per barrel, from a high of US dollars 120. We therefore expect this administration to honor their campaign promise of lowering fuel prices and, in addition, revise the punitive tax levies on the cost of fuel. The Ruto administration's initiative of utilizing savings for development instead of borrowing is another camouflaged promissory note. To realize the 300 billion shillings from this year's budget is extremely ambitious. We wish to propose austerity measures such as the restructuring of the national debt and the recovering of public funds looted from 2013 to date. On the 27th September, the Ruto administration unveiled their choices of cabinet secretaries. Of the total number, only 7 women were named, contrary to the campaign promise of a 50-50 cabinet. I hear there was an MOU to name from the clergy, members of the clergy, CS for religious affairs. It could be another breach of an MOU. Moreover, the selection of cabinet secretaries, some of whom have amazingly active criminal cases, is unquestionable. What are you asking our parliamentarians to do? Honestly, to go into the committees, compromise them with money here and money here, and actually approve people with criminal cases. If I was William Ruto, I would withdraw some of these immediately to avoid national shame and even international shame. This was not procedurally done on the basis of competencies and personal integrity. We shall direct our MPs to withhold approval of those who do not meet the Chapter 6 threshold of our Constitution. Finally, dear Kenyans and leaders assembled here, and you members of the Fourth Estate, on the back of this heavily contested election, the deficiencies that exist within the judicial and electoral systems needs to be immediately addressed. We must reform, and I cannot overemphasize the word must, in the light of what we now know. We must reform the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, to be able to, perchance, going forward, guarantee our children free, fair, and credible elections. With regards to the judiciary, there can never be justice if our judicial system can be adversely influenced to subvert the rule of law and the course of justice. As I speak, I'm a member of that fraternity, and it pains me as senior counsel to have witnessed what we have gone through. In conclusion, our transformative ideals live on as Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance. We are re-energized, we are revitalized, and indeed rejuvenated to ensure that the hopes and aspirations of the Kenyan people will be at the top of our agenda. A luta continua. I am accompanied here by members of parliament, as I said, in excess of 20 who came in quickly. I think that Fred there will be able to give you a list of these MPs, and I thank you so much for finding the time. We felt it was important. It's indeed our constitutional responsibility to respond to the first address as the new president opened the 13th edition of Parliament. Just for some of you may be of some interest, I joined Parliament when it was the 5th edition. So I lived through the 5th edition, the 6th edition, the 7th edition, the 8th edition, the 9th edition, wow, the 10th edition. So if you want to know how to win elections, please talk to me. All of you. Thank you so much. Asanteni.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I noticed you had this word. I know.